Hey guys, here with Max today. We're just about to swap over his tubeless setup to put a tube with sealant inside it. I know a lot of you haven't done that yet, and so we're going to show you how to do that. But first of all, we'll just ask Max, what was the rundown with the previous setup?
Previous setup I had tubeless in there with Silka Ultimate, and I was running GB 5000 SDRs, similar tyre that is on there now, but it just was pretty dreadful, to be honest. So I got punctures all the time. I ran out of sealant like 3 times in it in the course of maybe 3 months. So deciding to try something else and go down a new avenue.
Now, in saying this, he had punctures with tubes as well. Max is a big boy. What are you weighing?
About 90 kilos.
Yeah. So we're not blaming anything here. We're just looking for alternatives. So you've got an option, because you did think that tubeless was going to fix all your woes, didn't you, when you initially?
Well, yeah. The main reason I went to tubeless is because in a race I got a puncture maybe 15 k's in, and everyone was like, if you were tubeless, you would never had this issue. But I've had multiple issues where I've been in a scenario where tubeless or tube, it wouldn't have made a difference,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you said you had about 5, not on this tyre, he's just actually changed this and had to put a tube in it to keep riding. There's no sealant in that yet, we're going to take it apart in a sec. But how many punctures roughly did you have in what period of time?
I put 4 plugs into it and probably 6 punctures, 7 punctures over like maybe 2 months. So
and
a lot.
5,000 Ks roughly?
Yeah, probably about 5,000 Ks.
So he was, not ridiculous kilometres, but a high number. But yeah, when you hear of that, and the problem is out on the road, how was that on the road to try and fix? Or do you have to get a lift home sometimes, or?
Never had to get the lift of shame home, unfortunately, or fortunately, sorry, should I say. But yeah, there's a mess quite a lot. So spraying everywhere, gets on your bibs. Sometimes the plugs wouldn't work, and then you don't have a tube to put in. So
how were you putting the plugs in? Did you have to take it off to get pressure from behind to put it in, or could you get it in through the tyre?
No, most of the time you could get it in through the tyre, but if you lose all the air in the tyre, it is quite hard to get the plug in.
Yeah, that's the problem. So what we're talking about here is when you've got air in the tyre, you can push against that opposing pressure to get a plug in, which is why mountain biking is a lot easier for plugging, because you've got a high volume tyre that allows you some room to get behind it, whereas with road you've got a very small volume to deal with before the plug hits the rim. I've had rims back before many times where there are literally holes in the rim where people have just been trying to do it to get home, and then they pierce one of the assembly holes, or the rim tape gets damaged, then it starts leaking internally. We had a guy turn up with over 200 grams of sealant inside his wheel. Matty, we just pulled apart a wheel this morning. What had happened with that one? The tape had peeled back internally and started to release the sealant inside the rim.
That's right, yes.
Yeah. So it's not the utopia it's made out to be. We do a lot of work with our tape methods, with cutting an anchor tail in it and pressurising the tubeless tape with a tyre and tube before we do it to stop a lot of the problems. But what we've got today is an option for you, especially if you're not as mechanically minded. A lot of people are having to go to shops to put tubeless together, but can do a tyre and tube. I'm not selling these. This is not a promotional thing. I have had to make a prototype tube for the TPU version to get the sealant inside. With a normal race butyl tube like this, you can just take the valve out and squeeze particulate sealant, like one of these ones here. Matty, could you get that other sealant please as well? I just want to show the range of what we've been using. So you can squeeze particulate sealant through a valve like this. Put my hands there, hopefully that focuses. When the valve core is removed. But when you get one like this, so when I saw these Ride Now ones, I was very happy because I thought we would be able to have sealant injectable into a TPU. But the problem is, it's a nice removable valve core. It's got a base on it. You can see it's aluminium here, then plastic here. It stops here. It's at like less than a 1 mil hole, and the particulate won't go down the hole. So you can only squeeze a really thin sealant like Stan's into TPU tubes currently, whereas the new prototype I've made, and I did not want to make this tube, I've just lost that tool. No, there it is. This has been a good 6 months of work to beg the factory to do this for me. This is just a prototype one. Mine will be clear. This now has an aluminium valve which will go the whole way through. You can see it's pushing through the bottom there, and it will allow particulate sealant into a TPU tube. Butyl tubes, almost as good as a TPU, a little bit heavier, a tiny bit higher rolling resistance. These are the ugly boys here that are heavy and don't roll well, but these lightweight butyl, like a Conti Race Light being the operative word, it's not a bad option. You do have to flush it out with water beforehand. You just take the valve core out. There's a hose over there somewhere I use. I just stick the hose on the end of it, fill it half full of water, tip it upside down with my thumb over the end, then I pour it out, all the water and the powder comes out, and then I just put the valve core back in. Put sealant in, then put the valve core back in, and it's pretty easy to use. The TPU option is going to be less mess. You're not going to have to do that, and just inject a nice particulate sealant. This is actually surprisingly good. It's a water-based one, and it's got large particles in it, and it seems to be staying hydrated longer. I have nothing to do with any of these brands. It's just options we've used that seem to work. The Silka's pretty good. It does dry out a bit quicker even than the new one. What was your experience with sealants? What did you find, Max?
I used the Silka Ultimate, and I found that, yeah, it did dry out pretty quickly. I seem to run out of sealant all the time, and even seeing Sammy, my mechanic, he put in 120 mils or something, and then, you know, two punctures later and I was out of sealant. So
yeah, wow. So that's not cheap stuff. This is a bit cheaper. Not that I've, again, nothing to do with this. I'm not pushing any brand. This just seems to be for road. On mountain bike, I'm not sure, but for road, it seems to be working well. The main difference with using a tube with sealant is the dehydration window is much, much longer. It has a boundary layer, so the tire with a normal tubeless setup, should I say, sweats the sealant, especially at the sidewall. I've put wheels in water overnight in a small tub of water, and you can see an effervescent bubbles forming all around the edge of the sidewall of the tubeless tire, where the air is slowly weeping out of it, and that takes the sealant hydration. Let alone if you get a puncture, it spews out. With a tube, it's a lot less mess. The hydration window is 3 times long, so you can get up to sort of 6, 8, 12 months, depending on what you're using, versus a tubeless setup, from what I'm finding, is anywhere between 1 and 3 months, roughly, which then ends up with this. The bags of stinky tubeless tires that are not even halfway worn, with this type of mess inside here. This was only 2 months old. Hopefully it'll focus there. We pulled a chunk out of this over here that was about 15 grams, a big chunk of sealant. So it also gets your tire out of balance. And this was leaking on the guy, like Max had his leaking on him. Whereas with a tube, I'm not pumping these up for weeks sometimes, especially when they're a new setup, because the tube has a boundary layer and it doesn't leak air. So what we're going to do with Max is swap this over. This is just a standard tube because he had to use this to keep riding, and we're just going to put a new one in. I have tried every TPU tube on the planet, by the way, and they will let you inject a thin sealant like stands in them. This is what I use. Just a catheter syringe is the best. These are 60 mil. If you can get latex tube, it's the best. If not, just plastic PVC tube from Bunnings. You can feel that one, it sticks on, and it's a lot easier to put over the valve core to get it in. A lot less mess, a lot. This is actually clean, which is great. I had to pull apart a tubeless wheel yesterday to fix a spoke on a guy who had a crash. It was a 3-hour affair to get all the sealant out, replace the spoke, then clean the tire for 3/4 of an hour because it wouldn't seal. There was too much sealant on the edge of it. And then we got it back together. Whereas this, you're probably looking, half hour, 3/4 of an hour to replace a spoke or something if you had to, with none of the mess. Luckily, I have an outdoor hose over there that I use for all my tubeless punishment, and it just goes over the edge and it's not that messy. But I know a guy that ruined his wife's pavers with this stuff here, it does not come off. Yeah, yeah, it's pretty messy.
Yeah, I cleaned out the wheel the other day and I had it all over the backyard. I had to spray the hose down to get rid of it.
Just quickly, if you saw what I did there, I started at the valve and then I pushed this in to release the lever. I pushed in after that was undone on the first bit, and then you take the tube out. You don't de-seat both sides, you only de-seat one because it makes it a lot easier to get the first side out. Oh, it's got a bit of air in it, sorry. My TPU tube, I'm making the diameter of it a bit bigger because these ones pull inbound a bit. So they're, I'll have them ready in, I don't know, 2 months, hopefully, somewhere around there. Again, it's not a money-making exercise. I'm not trying to promote this. I'm just trying to offer an alternative so people have an option for getting the advantage of tubeless, but without the hassle and the potential risk. We're going to splice in a video while I'm doing this of a tubeless burp, not a blow-off. This is a hooked wheel you're about to see. You'll see the video coming up. It's a pedal strike, which gets the rear wheel slightly airborne. The reason for the burp is the landing about now. You'll see it land slightly sideways. He's a big guy, 85 kilos. When he lands, not 85 kilos hitting that, that's a good probably 130 or whatever it is compounded over his weight landing. And then it just rolls the tire inbound, which shoots the air out in a split second. After that, obviously you can see the crash, which is horrible. And he was pretty beat up. We had this conversation before and he rang me straight after it, and he will be running tubes with sealant. Not because of all the things we've just spoken about, but because of the boundary layer that stops that burp instantaneous deflation. Mountain bike doesn't have that. Mountain bike balloons outbound on the tire like this and self-seats. So if you burp a mountain bike, it'll generally go back in. A roadie, when it burps, the air follows path of least resistance, actually pushes the tire back in, and instant deflation. It's happened a lot on the junior team over in the Netherlands when they ride cobbles. They slip off one cobble sideways and it lands in the rut and it pops the tire inbound, instantaneous deflation. So we only run tubes with the Australian Cycling Academy now, which has saved a lot of grief. And yeah, a lot of people are aware of this stuff. Tubeless on mountain bike, really fine, not many issues, but on road there are potential problems. So we've got the tire off. Now all we're gonna do is get this tube. Sorry, Maxie, I'll give you this. So what you wanna do, we're just gonna use this Petey's in here. I'll shake this up. It's got they call it microfiber. It looks like the old glitter stuff we used to put in the mountain bike tubeless. But as long as that particulate is floating in it, then you can suck it up. I just go 30 mil. Actually, we'll go 40 for you're a big guy. So we've gone 40 mil, and then I keep sucking the syringe. Oh, I forgot a rag. Oh well, no big deal. The reason I keep sucking the syringe down is you want a little bit more air because it allows you to do what I'll show you in a sec. So the valve core is out of the tube. I'll bring this over. Valve core is out of the tube. You can see I've got 40 mil in here. Got it all over my fingers. I forgot a rag. Can you get a rag, Matty? Yep. Thanks, bro. You don't need to push this on too far with the latex one. Then I tip it over and I start to get the sealant down. Then the air moves to the top here because what it allows you to do is push the last bit through. I'm going to get it all to settle down with the air, because then when you pull it out, it doesn't want to vomit all the sealant back at you. Thanks, Matty. Cheers. So as you can see already, there's a lot less mess than a tubeless one. So I'm just going to push that up and down a couple of times, and then all the sealant is inside and it doesn't vomit back at you with any pressure. I'll quickly show you what else I do. Any valve core I put in, I just use lip balm, or if you've got O-ring sealant, everyone's got this at home, just standard lip balm, and I just chuck a heap of that over the valve core. I make sure the valve core was open and facing out, e.g. the end was open, and then I just push it in here. It does two things, great for your lips, and it allows you to, where's that little key? It allows you to seal a lot better without the valve ever sticking, but it also stops sealant sticking to it. Everyone's had sticky valves before that's dealt with any of this stuff, and it's not fun. So now we've got that in there. We just have 40 mil of sealant sitting in the bottom. Valve is back in. Do the end up so it does not, just hold that for me. I should have actually left half that tire on, that would have been smart. Direction, this way, this way. Where have you got that at the valve? I got the right direction. Yep. Oh no, I didn't.
Should rotate this way.
Yeah, I got it right. Yep. Cool. So now, once you do this, I find the best if you start with the valve stem at your belly button, all the sealant sitting down here out of the way. Actually, Maddie, could you pass that pump, the floor pump where you can screw the end onto it?
Yep.
Probably could have almost put an extender on that, but this pump will fit it. So then you go half, a quarter, should I say, on this side, a quarter on this side. You just look at it.
So the idea with the tube is that if you get a little puncture in your tube, the sealant's meant to fill the tube as opposed to like having to replace the tube, right?
So the difference is it's going to behave just like a tubeless setup will.
Yep.
The difference being that it's got to fight through two layers. So it'll go out the tube and the particulates will start to combine and congeal, and it'll block there. It'll also block on the tire, and you'll get a little bit of sealant in between the tire and the tube. So whenever you pull your tire and tube off, gently start to pull the tube out, and you can count how many punctures you've had that have sealed without you knowing them, because they'll be stuck in a tiny little spot.
Yeah.
So they have to fight through two layers, and that generally will stop 80-90% of punctures. Yes, a big puncture, it ain't going to stop, but with particulate, you can stop pretty big punctures. So I'll now spin it around so it's away from me, because you always finish at the valve stem, which is going to be here for this reason. I checked and it was all straight inside. When you finish at the valve stem, you can simply just push this in the center like this. This is a Conti tire. Watch how easy it goes on. Now this, Max, remember this bit here where your tube last time caught under the stem? Max's tube caught under here, which is easy with some TPUs to happen, especially the pink ones. And because of that, it got punctured right on the valve stem base and the tube itself. So it had a double puncture on both sides there. This one's inside. So now we'll quickly put the head on the pump him up, and undo the Presta head. You can see there's no sealant leaking out, which is nice. I don't have any green tube hanging there, no. I'll leave it off the ground for a sec till there's a tiny bit of air in it supporting it, then I put it down. How much do you want in it, Max?
I'm only running about 65 PSI at the moment. Funnily enough, when I was running tubes before, I used to run about 80.
Yeah.
And now, being used to the tubeless, I'm on 65.
Yeah, cool. So what the difference with this setup with a tube in a tubeless compatible wheel, I'll just finish this, sorry, is you can run lower pressures because effectively the bead of the tire sits on the outer burp hooks and the tube is then a circle in the middle. Whereas with old clinchers, you would have the valley here with a gap in the side. The tube wouldn't be a circle, the tube would have an elbow under the beads of the tires, which would cause 90+% of the pinch flats. I learnt this the hard way, and in France had a horrible bike that would just get pinch flat all the time, and my French boss said I can fix that. All he did is put 2 layers of rim tape around it, which increased the space in the valley, so it stopped the tube getting under the bead. Same thing happens with a tubeless tire, so you can run lower pressures without the pinch flat, which is one of the main advantages. So run the same pressure, no problem. the main thing is if you're running 65, that's exactly, what was his name, Matty, in that video? Adrian. Exactly same weight, a little bit lighter than you, but same PSI. He burped it because the lower the pressure is, the more likely to burp.
Right.
There's no opposing force, or not enough opposing force. So when you're a big guy and you're running lower, yes, I get the advantage, but you're at higher risk of burping the tire. Not blowing off. Hookless is blow-offs. That's stupid, as we all know. But these are hooked wheels we're talking about. So you can avoid that with the boundary layer of the tube. If this was burped, if that hit a 80 kilo guy landing on it sideways, it would just pop straight back out because the boundary layer would stop that air from escaping. Or if you hit a cobble or something which pushed it sideways. Sorry, I just ran out of battery there. That was a lot of information. I'm going to shut up now. If anyone's spoken to me over the past few years, they've probably heard that, all that and more. So write in the comments how long I've been rabbiting on, because I'm not against tubeless per se all over. Motorsport, fine. Motocross, fine. Mountain bike, fine. Just those things we spoke about there are worth noting at least and taking into consideration. But where are you going to be riding this setup? Have you got some races coming up, or?
Yeah, got some events coming up. This weekend we're heading down to Jamboree. We're doing a big Amy's simulation down there. I'm not racing in Amy's, but I'm joining the guys, and that's good training for coming into Barrel. So I'm doing Barrel just in mid-October, doing the Highlanders event or Highlanders wave there. Which will be pretty brutal, especially being a bigger guy. Undulating hills is not my forte. And then we got some more races, crit racing coming up at the end of the year as well that I want to get into. So.
Nice. You're going to be doing the chop up at CP?
Yeah, definitely doing the chop at CP. Maybe not the Thursday Arvo, but Thursday morning we'll be doing, and then potentially jump into some Heffron. Potentially, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, nice. I've got some wheels with Ramwick up there, some spare service, and I'm doing the neutral spare service wheels for the Wollongong Worlds Triathlon as well. So I try to help out, try to get some wheels, around the events because they put in a lot of effort for all those events. So yeah, enjoy guys, and thanks Max for coming down.
No worries. Awesome. Thanks, mate.
Cheers.